Waverly Hills Sanatorium has been referred to as one of the most terrifying buildings in the world. In this episode of Abandoned West Kentucky, we take a look at the history of this intimidatingly large bat-wing structure tucked away on a hill on Paralee Road in Louisville, Kentucky. We'll also share some of the stories that have been told throughout the years that add to the fascination of this former tuberculosis hospital and how it earned its place in discussions of top destinations for people seeking paranormal evidence. Waverly Hills Sanatorium got its name from the original property owner, Major Thomas Hayes. Hayes built a one-room schoolhouse in 1883 and hired a teacher for the school by the name of Lizzie Lee Harris. Harris enjoyed the book series The Waverly Novels, a long series of books that were among the most popular novels for nearly a century in Europe. She liked the book so much that she made the suggestion of naming the school after the series. Major Thomas agreed to her suggestion, and he named the school Waverly School and the property itself Waverly Hills. In 1910, a two-story hospital was built on the property after the land the school sat on was purchased with the help of the State Tuberculosis Commission to help manage the increasing number of patients coming down with the disease. That two-story building was capable of accommodating only 40 to 50 patients. Tuberculosis, or TB, is a potentially serious infectious bacterial disease that mainly affects the lungs. The bacteria that causes TB is spread when an infected person coughs or sneezes. As TB cases continued to rise, plans for a new, larger tuberculosis hospital were laid out for the Waverly Hills land in 1924, and by 1926, the current 5-story structure that stands on the property was completed. The hospital was self-sufficient, with its own post office, gardens, and many other resources to keep patients and staff from the general public to cut down on exposure of the disease, a disease that seemed to thrive in the climate of Kentucky. Many times the children that had mothers and fathers both contract the disease were also forced to make Waverly their home. During operations as treatment facility for TB, Waverly Hills Sanatorium housed over 400 patients and was one of the largest facilities of its kind. Throughout its operations as a TB hospital, there are many conflicting reports of how many patients died during their stay. Some say the number is in the tens of thousands, and some have claimed it's even higher than that. A former assistant medical director at the hospital, Dr. J. Frank Stewart, stated that the highest number of deaths per year to occur at Waverly Hills was 152, but many argue it was much, much higher than Dr. Stewart's claims. Due to records being destroyed or not properly documented, there's no actual proof of just how many died, but experts put the number around 63,000. To keep morale up, bodies were transported out of the side of the patients by using a 500-foot concrete tunnel. This tunnel is often referred to as the body chute, the death chute, or the tunnel of death. Footsteps, voices, and other unexplained noises are said to be heard throughout the tunnel today. Not all deaths that occurred at the Waverly Hills property were related to tuberculosis. Allegedly, a nurse by the name of Mary Hillenberg hung herself on the 5th floor in front of room 502, making it a hotspot for people seeking paranormal activities in the old hospital. Another story to come out of the facility is of an 11-year-old boy named Timmy who fell to his death after chasing a ball on the 5th floor. Timmy's ghost is said to still roam the halls of Waverly Hills. During the start of the TB outbreak of the early 1900s, not much was known about how to treat the terrible disease. So many methods used were experimental. One extreme method included deliberately collapsing a lung, a technique that was started in 1882. This was done by injecting oxygen or nitrogen into the chest cavity and increasing the pressure until the lung finally collapsed. The most basic treatment was simply bed rest and fresh air. No matter the temperature, patients were rolled out onto a balcony exposed to the elements to receive their fresh air treatments. In 1943, Selman Waxman discovered a compound that acted against tuberculosis called streptomycin, an antibiotic. The compound was first given to a patient in 1949. The experimental drug worked, and the patient was cured, marking the first signs of victory in the battle against the plague. Waverly Hills served the Louisville and surrounding areas as a go-to for tuberculosis treatment until June of 1961, when cases were so low there was no longer a need for a specific facility to treat the disease. The hospital closed, renovated, and reopened in 1962 as Woodhaven Medical Services, a nursing home primarily treating aging patients with various stages of dementia and mobility limitations. Woodhaven would last 20 years until an alarming amount of complaints on the facility forced it to close. Understaffing and patient abuse were among the complaints. For the next 20 years, the building remained empty, and as with many abandoned buildings, it fell victim to vandalism, graffiti, copper theft, and even became a site for a murder. According to the book Lost in the Darkness by Benjamin S. Jeffries, a man who had sought shelter with his dog in the empty halls of Waverly Hills was confronted by a group of trespassing teenagers, and after a brief altercation, allegedly, they threw the man and his dog down an elevator shaft.
We can't find anybody.
Charles and Tina Mattingly bought the building in 2001 and eventually turned it into what it is today, attracting tourists from all over the U.S. and beyond. Waverly Hills offers a variety of tours, from historic tours and paranormal overnight tours. Since the opening of Waverly Hills as a paranormal and historic site, it has been featured on a variety of shows, such as Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, and ABC's Most Scariest Place on Earth, along with countless videos on YouTube, including an episode of Ghost Files from the popular channel The Watcher. Charles and Tina Mattingly own the property but have leased the building to the Waverly Hills Sanatorium Historic Society. The Historical Society runs all of the attractions and say they're in charge of preserving and restoring the buildings. The two parties have recently been involved in a lawsuit due to the Mattinglys being accused of not allowing the Historical Society to run the tours to what they believe is best for business. Fortunately, as of October 2022, the issues have been resolved. The two parties released a joint statement. The Waverly Hills Historical Society and Charlie Mattingly have reached an agreement to resolve all of their disputes. Ultimately, all parties share a love for the preservation of Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and they agree that a collaboration is the best course of action so that future generations will be able to enjoy and learn from its history, the building, and the grounds. As we finalize the details of the new singular team, which we will announce over the next few weeks, as we both complete the logistical details, we do want it to be known that the Mattingly family will remain involved with the WHHS. The WHHS is creating a permanent Mattingly family board seat to ensure its founder's vision and legacy at Waverly Hills Sanatorium is continued indefinitely. The WHHS and the Mattingly family look forward to working together in this new way, and they jointly invite the public to become involved with Waverly Hills Sanatorium, whether it be through volunteering, touring the facility, or donating to the preservation efforts. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Abandoned West Kentucky. If you've enjoyed this video, click the thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel to keep up with future videos. If you'd like to support us and want to see us do more of these videos in locations such as Waverly Hills, check out our Patreon page in the video description.
Waverly's paranormal legends have gone back for years and years. People believe that over 60,000 people died there at one time. Reports of hauntings and strange unexplained activities have gone on there for years and years. I've investigated quite a few areas that have been reportedly haunted in the northern Kentucky and southern Indiana area, and Waverly is by far the most active place I've ever been.
There are a number of locations in Louisville, but I think the holy grail of hauntings is probably Waverly Hills. They say that's the most haunted place in the United States, if not, on Earth. Most people say 63 to 65,000 people died there. When you look at the records, the experts say there's no way that many people could have died. They said most likely it was tops 8,000 or 7,000 people. But still, you think about 7,000 people dying in one location over the course of 20, 30 years. That's quite a lot.
We're up to about 11,000 that we can prove. We assume that there's a lot more than that. There's been a large debate on how many people actually died.
Well, Waverly's always been known to be haunted. And, no one's going to believe anything till they see it for themselves. I wouldn't either, but I have seen things up here for myself. It can scare you. I don't care who you are, you're not ready for it. I've ran out of this building more times than I could count, and I will again, I'm sure. It's not the last time. But there's a lot of stories that do go along with the building. And, you know, a lot of them we don't know what's true, what's not. There are some stories that we have found out that are true.